Welcoming you to In-Depth on Beyond Business. Today we have an esteemed personality, an individual who's experienced different facets of the corporate world. Currently the chairman of Securities Exchange Commission and also the former chairman of tourism in Sri Lanka, Dr. Nalaka Godahewa. It's quite an interesting phenomenon to note. A developing country such as Sri Lanka has only 1% of its population being involved in the stock market. Now, could you just tell me what is the reason behind this particular phenomenon? And also your 10-point plan figures out or identifies the fact that educational awareness campaigns are being undertaken in order to ensure that more people participate. Can you just brief me on this particular initiative?
Actually, if you look at all the problems our market had during the last 2 years, that boils down to a very simple factor that the number of people operating in the market is very small. As you very correctly mentioned, only less than 1% of the Sri Lankan population are active in the market at the moment. Compared to the region, it's a very, very low number. That clearly shows the market has been understood by very few people and they were operating the market. Then what happens is, if there's a little bit of volatility, it affects all these people very badly. So to reduce that impact, what you need to do is to increase this percentage of people who are operating in the market. That brings, on the other hand, more liquidity to the market, more opportunities for companies to raise capital. For in every sense, it's an important priority. So that is why in our 10-point action plan or the roadmap for capital market development, we have identified increasing the liquidity and bringing more people into the market as a priority. And we will be very aggressively working on that, promoting the market and also creating greater awareness and also increasing the financial literacy of the overall market.
Doctor, we all know that stock market in any country is quite a fever. People are quite interested, they're quite enthusiastic. Now, ever since you took over, Bloomberg voted stock market of Sri Lanka to have rebounded. What is your take on the current progression of the stock market ever since your takeover?
I'm quite happy about the current progress of the stock market. As you know, any stock market is expected to have its own volatility. What happened perhaps during the last 1.5 years was this volatility became a little bit of abnormal, which created a lot of worries in the market and a lot of discussion around it. But if you look at what has happened during the last 4 months, it has settled down, and I think now it has got into a nice rhythm, which I will continue, which I believe will continue as it is.
Doctor, we do know that central bank has cut its basis points by 25, which means it's more about a fueling of growth yet again. How do you see this as a positive? How do you see this as a facilitation for the stock market and for the investors per se?
See, when somebody invests in a stock market, you are naturally looking for returns and you compare your returns with your other alternates. If the bank interests are very high, most of the people, particularly the risk-averse people, would look at that as the option. Generally, stock markets perform better when the market interests are low. So, the rate cut which was decided this month will definitely be a boost, and I hope that going forward, the bank will look at more positively next year about rate reduction, which will continue to support the growth of the stock market.
Sri Lanka as a nation has approximately 287 companies being currently listed out of a possible 10,000. Now, this is yet again quite confusing. This could even be termed as something that is quite shocking. Now, what do you see as a reason behind this particular phenomenon?
Yes. Now, if you look at Sri Lanka's market capitalization, it is less than US dollar 20 billion. If you compare with our regional counterparts like Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, India, they are far bigger than us in terms of market size. For example, a country which is closest to us in terms of market capitalization, Thailand, is more than 300 million, whilst we are less than 20 billion, more than 300 billion. Then India more than 1000 billion. So we are very, very insignificant. Why are we small? We are small because the number of companies who are listed currently is small. We have only 287 companies listed in the market after almost 28 years of experience in the current stock exchange. So one of the priorities for us is to get more companies to listed in the market, which will increase the market capitalization, and that will also make the market more attractive for the investors, local as well as foreign.
Having mentioned about listing of companies onto the stock market, and as we know, we are trying to attract both public as well as the private sector. Do you think with the current ruling party mentality, the attraction of the public sector is viable, whether it's realizable in the short term?
No, it's a matter of explaining what or defining what we mean by listing. See, if you look at the current government policy, it is very clearly stated that the government has no intention of privatizing state entities. But listing is not privatization. Listing is actually peopleization. Now, for example, let's say you go and list one of the government institutes, 10%, 20%, that is not privatization. It is giving an opportunity for the masses to come and invest in this government institute, be a partner, be a owner, and also get a right to see what's happening, how is the company regulated. So it's every sense, it is for the benefit of the public. And listing is not new to the government. There are many government organizations who are already listed, and Sri Lanka Telecom is listed. Then Sri Lanka Insurance is to be listed very soon by regulation. So it is not a new thing. It's just a change of mindset and people understanding public listing is not privatization, it is peopleization.
An information that probably people would be really interested in, a controversy that's quite hyped up these days, would be in the form of the investigations that's being undertaken at the SEC. What is your take on the progress of these investigations?
See, you used the perfect word, hype, because I also believe this whole thing was perhaps hyped up more than what is required. Investigations are a common thing in any market, whether it is Sri Lanka or in any other country. Investigations of market malpractices were always there. But what happens is you don't hear much about it from the other markets, isn't it? In Sri Lanka, suddenly we started hearing a lot about it. That's where we went wrong. What happens is normally stock market investigations are done in a particular manner. The final jurisdiction is based on criminal law. So when an investigation is done, you have to prove the crime beyond reasonable doubts. When it is under criminal law, it is not like civil law, it doesn't work on probability. So therefore, many regulators don't make much of a noise about the investigations are going on until they are absolutely sure that they can take action. Then only they start talking about it. Here what happened was, we started talking about every ongoing investigation. So when you talk about that in that manner, naturally the public expect a result for every investigation. And if there's no result, public will point fingers and say somebody hide the case, so put the covered up the issue. That is not the case. Ideally, we should have waited till the investigations progress to a particular level, find out exactly what can be proven, what can be punished, then spoken about it. So that's the dilemma. That's why I say it's hyped up. So the answer to your question, what is the status? All investigations are continuing as it is. Some investigations already reports have come based on which actions have been taken. Some you cannot take any action, where the file has been closed. So that will continue. It's a normal process.
Now, just to sum up this entire thing, 2013, we are just looking at the year. And what do you think for SEC, what sort of a year would it be? Having mentioned things like central bank cutting down the points and the credit ceiling and our P ratio being good, etc. How do you think is 2013 year going to be?
2013, we are going to be very busy. As I mentioned earlier, this 10-point action plan, we have appointed committees, high-level committees to work on these things. They are very actively working on that. One after the other, we have to start implementing that. So I expect some of these projects to be actually completed during the next 1 year. For example, the SEC Act Amendment, demutualization. Probably these are things we might be able to finish even during 2013. As far as the overall market is concerned, we want the market to grow beyond an equity market. We want an overall capital market which will have different instruments like the corporate bonds, debentures, debts, so a comprehensive market. So we are working towards it, and I believe it will be a good year. It will be a good year where more people will come into the market, more companies will come into the market, and the people will see the market as more transparent, and with the new act coming in, the tools for us to regulate the market proper. So overall, I expect a good 2020.